What's up, guys? Carolina Jackpot coming at you. It is September 25th, 2019, and we're talking college football. Week 5 is already here and upon us. It seems like it goes faster and faster every year, and we're always having so much fun. So we're going to jump right into week number 5, the picks against the spread. Got a good selection of games this week, and we're going to see what week 5 has to offer and what some good picks are here. On Thursday night, we got the Navy at Memphis AAC West showdown. Navy is catching 10.5 on the road against Memphis in the Liberty Bowl. Navy has actually had 2 bye weeks already this year. This is a matchup of the number 3 versus the number 4 overall defenses in the country through the amount of games that they've played. It's kind of strange to think Memphis being a highly ranked defense, but they are as of this point. Memphis had the most impressive win so far, okay, out of these 2 teams, with the 15-10 win in week 1 over Ole Miss. And really not that great of a win. Ole Miss is not a very good team, but yeah, they are a Power 5 team. And Navy with the 2 wins over some kind of weaker competition. Memphis had this week off to prepare for the triple option. Actually, shouldn't be really having to prepare for it a whole lot because they face this offense every year. These teams play every year. Navy has not won a road game since week 4 of 2017. So you got to go back 2 years to find their last road win, which was a 31-21 victory at Tulsa. I give the coaching advantage here to Navy. They've got a highly rated defense of their own, and I think they kind of hold the score down here just a little bit. I think that 10.5 points is just a little bit too much. You know, not looking for a huge raucous crowd here in this game, being it's on a Thursday night. And Navy last year kind of really fell off the mark. They really did 3-10. Just not a good year after quite a few bowl appearances in a row. So I'm going to give the edge here in this game to Navy. I'm going to take them to cover the spread here. I don't think that they'll end up winning the game. I think they'll probably lose by about 7 or so. Looking at those losses on the road, you know, most of them have been fairly close. A couple of blowout losses there over the past 2 years, but most of them fairly close. I think it's better than a 3-10 team last year. The quarterback, Malcolm Perry, could beat you with his legs pretty quickly, and I'm going to pick them to take the cover spread here against Memphis on the road. Friday night, we have Duke facing off with Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech is a 3-point favorite at home. Duke has probably looked like the better team so far. They're sitting at 2-1 right now with some wins over North Carolina A&T and a road win. Pretty impressive, 41-18 at Middle Tennessee State. Middle Tennessee doesn't have the quarterback, Brett Stockstill, anymore, who was there for a long time. But still a decent Conference USA team. Virginia Tech has kind of struggled in wins over Furman. Had to kind of come from behind to beat Furman. And then in week 2 against Old Dominion in a spot that should have been kind of like a revenge game. Remember the upset last year, the 49-35 upset that Old Dominion pulled on Virginia Tech. You know, he should have been out for some revenge there. And they only beat this team like 31-17 and still kind of struggled with them. And, of course, lost week 1 at Boston College. So Duke has looked like the better football team, with their lone loss being a game against Alabama, which they held them scoreless in the first quarter, but Alabama had some players that were suspended there. So they're really 2 pretty evenly matched teams. They're just right there in the middle of the Coastal. They're not very good, not terrible. Quentin Harris, the quarterback for Duke, has done a decent job so far this year. 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Ryan Wilson, Virginia Tech, 17 TDs. He's thought through 4 interceptions this year. But Duke has no run game to speak of, and I'm just going to give the edge here to Virginia Tech just because this game is being played in Lane Stadium, and Duke historically has not played real well in that venue. So give me Virginia Tech to cover here and win the ball game. Penn State at Maryland. This should be a fairly good one. Quarterback Sean Clifford for Penn State's perfect 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions this year. The past 2 years combined, Maryland has scored 6 total points against Penn State. Now, that was with previous coaching staff, so things a little bit different right now. I know that Mike Loxley and crew, they're looking for that signature first win. That's the head of the Maryland program. I just think it might be a little bit too soon right now against a Penn State team that has looked better than what we kind of thought they would this year. Most people thought they might kind of take a step back and struggle. They are undefeated, had a 17-10 win against Pittsburgh. So, you know, kind of struggled in that one a little bit. But, I mean, Pitt knocked off UCF, who's won, I mean, how many games in a row in the regular season? So, right now, that close win doesn't look so bad. In fact, it actually looks pretty decent. I'm going to give the edge here to Penn State, just offensively. I think they're going to do what needs to be done here to take care of business and win this game. Should be a very close one, though. I don't look for it to be more than 2-score win, but I'm going to take Penn State here to cover against Maryland on the road. Arizona State is on the road at Cal. California's ranked number 15 right now. It's the highest they've been ranked since 2009, when they actually moved all the way up to number 6 early in the season under Jeff Tedford before they lost. Arizona State is ranked number 112 in rushing this year, which is surprising. They returned Eno Benjamin, and I really thought he was going to do some good things this year. We're kind of a rebuilt offensive line, so he'd be causing them some issues. The wins that Cal's had have been fairly close. I think they may be just a little bit overvalued right now. You know, 27-14 win week 1 over FCS school. They did have the nice win at Washington. I will give them credit there. Washington's a really good team, and they took care of business there. But last week, you know, going on the road, 28-20 over Ole Miss. You know, on the road, Ole Miss is not very good. You know, a team ranked number 15, you would think would have a little bit better of a showing against an Ole Miss team that's just known for giving up points. I'm going to give the edge here still to the Cal, the Golden Bears at home. I think they'll take care of business against Arizona State. Arizona State didn't impress me last week against Colorado either, which I called for Colorado to cover the spread in that game, and they did just that. So give me the Golden Bears and the 4.5 points here in this one. I've got Rutgers. Scarlet Knights going on the road to take on Michigan in the Big House. Rutgers stand at 1-2 right now. Of course, 2-1, coming off a just a shellacking on the road last week at Wisconsin. And week 2, just barely got by Army at home. Gave up a lot of rushing yards, but we're still able to pull out the victory there. If you look at Michigan, it shows that their run defense is really weak if you look at it statistically. That's because they played Army, and you know what kind of rushing yards they're going to put up, and then Jonathan Taylor for Wisconsin. So they kind of skew those numbers just a little bit. But if I think it was pronounced his name, Isaiah Pacheco, for Rutgers can get going a little bit. Guy's got 4 touchdowns this year. Most of that production came against UMass in week 1. He hadn't been really heard from since then. If he can get going a little bit for him, I think Rutgers has the ability to cover in this ball game. They've played some decent games against Big Ten competition last year, especially down the stretch. They started off the season really bad, had some blowout losses to Kansas, had a blowout loss to Buffalo, I think it was. But just going down the stretch, I mean, they actually played much better against Big Ten competition than they did against those guys. Just don't let them try to pass the ball. Don't let them try to pass the ball. Their two starting quarterbacks have combined for 3 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. That's not good. That's not good at all. Shea Patterson needs to get going. He's got 5 TD passes and 1 interception on the year so far. You know, was looked at as one of the top quarterbacks in the country going in, and I still think he could get there. Michigan with 1 loss right now. I mean, it's all up to them. I mean, could they win out? Could they end up going 11-1 and just surprise the heck out of everybody and then slip in that Big Ten championship game? I mean, you never know. I mean, it could happen. Not likely, though. I mean, they really looked bad last week and just got dominated by a team with a much stronger rushing game and much stronger defense. I'm just going to take the safe route here, and I'm going to take Rutgers in this game to cover against Michigan. I think you know, just a little lingering effect there from kind of getting shell-shocked, kind of getting beat up a little bit on the road. I think Michigan will win the game, probably by 24 points. Nothing impressive, though. Nothing they've done this year has been that impressive. So I don't really look for them to have any kind of breakout game here against the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. Kansas on the road at TCU. That Kansas rush defense is not very good, and that TCU rush game with Darius Anderson is pretty decent. They're solid. TCU is solid defensively as well. But you got to take a look at Kansas is very much improved. I mean, they won in week 1, just barely scraped by against an FCS team in Indiana State. They were missing their best player, Puka Williams, running back. And in week 2, I don't know what happened to them there. They lost at home to Coastal Carolina. But since then, you know, look really impressive. 3rd week of the season on the road at Boston College on a Friday night game, winning that game. I believe the final was, what, 48-24? I mean, they just totally dismantled Boston College in there, ran them out of their own building. And then last week, a decent performance against West Virginia. Didn't win the game. You know, kept them a lot closer than they have in recent years. Now, actually, last year, Kansas knocked off TCU at home. Looking at here, I don't think that Kansas is going to win this game. But the way this team's been playing lately, 16 points, I think, is just a little bit too much against a TCU team that's decent but not great. So going ahead and give me Leslie Miles and the Jayhawks to cover here. I think he's been out of coaching for a few years. I think he's starting to get in the groove here a little bit, and I think this team's going to play well. It wouldn't shock me. It would not shock me if they put, it would really surprise me, but it would shock me if they pulled the upset here. Texas Tech on the road at Oklahoma. Both teams coming off bye weeks here. Texas Tech only managed to get up 14 points on the board with the offense that they've got against a Arizona team that looked absolutely horrible week 1 against Hawaii. You know, gave up a ton of rushing yards there to the quarterback, Khalil Tate, which he'll get. But I just, you know, we got kind of the same thing going on here with Jalen Hurts. Kind of a dual threat guy for Oklahoma. 27 points for Oklahoma at home against a team like this. I think Oklahoma could really name the score here. Give me the Sooners to cover that 27 points against Texas Tech with ease at home. Northwestern on the road at Wisconsin. That's 24 points. You know, Northwestern's not looked good this year at all. They have not looked good at all. And this is a team that normally starts the year out kind of slow and gets better as the year progresses. But they've just looked historically bad this year. The quarterback, Hunter Johnson, who came from Clemson, nothing against the young man because he came from Clemson. I think he's a good kid. He's not been able to get in a rhythm here whatsoever at Northwestern. Last week, you know, you lost by 21 at home against Michigan State. Michigan State finally got something going offensively against you. Here, you're taking on a team with a running back, Jonathan Taylor, who put up over 200 yards on you know, what was thought to be a top 10 team. I don't think 24 points is quite enough. I see Wisconsin winning this thing by about 4 scores at home. Give me the Badgers to cover here against Northwestern. Texas A&M versus Arkansas. These two will be going at it at 12 o'clock on Saturday in the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Had a close loss last year for Arkansas, a team that went 0-8 in SEC play, but one of the games that they played a couple of them that were rather close. One of them actually was against LSU. Another one was against Texas A&M. They lost 24-17. Nick Starkel is the starting quarterback for Arkansas. He actually came from Texas A&M's transfer. He's thrown 7 TDs this year. Guess what else he's done? He's thrown 6 interceptions. This team they're not good. Week 1, they kind of squeaked out a 2014 win. I think it was 2014 over Portland State, an FCS team. I had to go all the way from Oregon, get a team all the way from Portland, Oregon, an FCS opponent to come to Arkansas and play, and almost pulled the upset. Week 2, I kind of thought that they might get their first SEC win in a while against Ole Miss. It really disappointed me. Ole Miss outplayed them thoroughly. They lose there. They look decent the 3rd week of the season offensively against Colorado State. Still gave up a bunch of points, but they avenged a loss from last year. Yeah, you heard that right. They had to avenge a loss from last year. And then last week, just totally pooped the bed at home at San Jose State. Comes in and beats Arkansas in their own building. A&M is not a very good team either. Last week, you know, they lose 28-20 to Arkansas or Auburn at home. But this score was 28-10 Auburn at the beginning of the 4th quarter. They kind of scored a few touchdowns there to make the final score look a little better than what it actually was. This is a tough one for me. I gotta take Texas A&M to cover here. I think that Kellen Mond finally puts it together and has a really, really good day throwing the ball against an Arkansas defense that's just horrid. And I think they'll cover the spread here. I don't know about that. This is one that is just tricky. I wouldn't bet this one because I could see Arkansas having another one of those performances where they kind of try to keep it close and still can't pull it out. But just give me Texas A&M here because I just don't trust Arkansas from what I've seen so far this year. We got NIU, the Huskies, traveling to Vanderbilt, Northern Illinois, catching 6.5 in Nashville. Commodores last week, 66-38 loss at home to LSU. And I had said after that game, I said, man, look at that. I thought Vanderbilt can really put some points up against LSU, but I really didn't realize that they scored 2 defensive touchdowns against LSU. So, you know, we want to take that down. It's really like a 66-24 game if you want to look at it that way. Keyshawn Vaughn really haven't been able to get going this year, but Vandy's played a tough schedule. I mean, they really have. You want to talk the losses to Georgia and LSU. They faced some of the SEC's best in those two. Then we went on the road to Purdue in a game that I thought that they would win. Just, kind of, I guess, some lingering effects from that Georgia game or whatever. They lost that one. So they're 0-3 football team right now. I don't think they're a terrible 0-3 football team. NIU is 1-2. They have lost to Utah and have lost to Nebraska. This team always plays a tough schedule with a couple of Power 5 schools in there. Usually somebody from the Big Ten and somebody from the Big 12, or maybe another team from the Big Ten thrown in there. Lost 44-8 to Nebraska, though. I gave a lot of points there. So I'm going to take Vanderbilt here to cover the spread in this game. I think they're going to get a good home win there. Some home cooking going on in Nashville, and raise that record to 1-3. I don't think this is a bad football team. I just think they played a really tough schedule so far this year, and they just need to get back on track a little bit, and they'll do that this Saturday. Into the next page of games here. We have FAU at Charlotte. I just kind of threw this one in here. Now, some of these I'm just going to kind of freestyle. I didn't do a whole lot of note-taking on some of them. This series has been close between these two teams the past few years. For Charlotte, coming off of a 52-10 loss last week at Clemson. FAU blown out week 1 against Ohio State, and they kind of rebounded a couple weeks later with a win over Ball State, and they beat Wagner at home. Charlotte's got a really good running back in Benny LeMay, and a pretty decent quarterback as well. And this is a home game for them. Big situational spot. They're favored by 1 point. Give me the 49ers. Give me the home team here to take care of business against the Lane Train in a Conference USA showdown in Charlotte. Ole Miss is on the road to Alabama. Alabama is 37.5-point favorites at home against Ole Miss. You saw last year Alabama put up 60-something points against Ole Miss, and this was an Ole Miss team that was laden with talent. This year's Ole Miss team is not laden with talent. Last year's was. I don't think that 37.5 is enough. Give me Alabama in this game. They've just been wearing folks out this year, just like they usually do. Give me the Crimson Tide to cover the spread there against Ole Miss. Interesting game here, a battle of ranked teams. Virginia on the road at Notre Dame. Virginia's catching 12.5, traveling to South Bend. Two teams that have not played in quite a while. I think have only played a couple of times in their history there. Notre Dame, of course, coming off that tough loss at UGA last Saturday night. Virginia has looked good this year. Last Friday night, getting a little tongue-tied here, William and Mary, they took on them at home and won that game pretty convincingly. They did have, a near slip-up at home a couple weeks ago against Florida State in a game that I thought they would win comfortably. If they were lucky to be able to come back and win that game there against Florida State. We're lucky Florida State did what they've been doing a little bit this year and kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter and allowed Virginia to come back and win that ball game. But, man, that one was pretty close there at the very end. Virginia, for what they are, I mean, the defense has been good. Cornerback Bryce Hall, supposedly one of the best in the country, but he kind of got wore out by that FSU wide receiver, Tamarian Terry, a few weeks ago, didn't he? Last week is what I was referring to against Old Dominion. Kind of a lackluster performance at home. I don't know if maybe they were kind of, just breathing a sigh of relief, being able to get past Florida State, and then looking ahead to Notre Dame, so that was kind of a sandwich spot there, and just really didn't play that well against Old Dominion. In fact, their most impressive win of the year is probably the road win at Pittsburgh. they had in week 1. There's the 30-14 victory there. Unlike most teams in the country, Virginia has not had an off week. I think that little bit of fatigue could come into play here a little bit. Do I think they're a good team? Yes. I think that they'll probably end up winning the ACC Coastal as these teams kind of start to sort themselves out. I think that it looks like Virginia and Pitt are probably the 2 best teams in the Coastal, and you already have Virginia that's won head-to-head there. I just don't think they have quite enough talent to go on the road and pull the victory off against the Golden Domers. Virginia, as good as that defense is, Bryce Hall, it really is all they've got on offense. I mean, the running backs are just average, but he is a really tremendous quarterback and a great playmaker. But I'm going to give the edge here to Notre Dame, and I think they'll cover the spread here. It's 12.5 points. I think they'll cover that. This game kind of reminds me of the game a couple of years ago when they took on NC State in South Bend, and everybody thought that one would be a really, really close game, and a lot of people picked NC State in that one, and Notre Dame came out on top, and I think they will here in this spot again. I think Notre Dame will have a bad game this year where they'll almost get beat. They do that almost every year against an inferior opponent, but Virginia is not really inferior, in my opinion. It'll be against someone else. A little lower down the card, maybe the Boston College. But give me Notre Dame there. Speaking of Boston College, here they are up next. They are 6.5-point underdogs at home against Wake Forest. A team that's looked really good this year. Wake Forest looked really fast, athletic. Their receivers are tall and rangy. Quarterback Jamie Newman is playing very well for them right now, and they're undefeated. One of the better teams in the ACC, and I dare say maybe the second best team in the ACC Atlantic behind the Clemson Tigers, going on the road against a BC team that has had its ups and downs so far this year. I just don't think they have the explosiveness here to be able to keep up with Wake Forest. I'm going to take the Demon Deacons here to win this game on the road and cover that 6.5 against Boston College. Georgia Tech at Temple. Kind of a strange game here. Jeff Collins and crew going on the road. He's taking on his former team, Temple. And it's weird that this one would be scheduled like this year. The year that the guy takes the job at Georgia Tech, he's having to face his old team on the road. Of course, Georgia Tech had a week off. They lost to the Citadel in week 2, took it on the chin, 27-24. Not really been able to score a lot of points this year. They put up 14 against Clemson in a huge loss. They put up 14 against South Florida in week 2 in the game they won 14-10. I don't see them being able to go on the road against Temple here and get a whole lot going offensively. Temple, another team that it's going to struggle to score points also. So for that being said, give me Georgia Tech here to cover the spread. I think it'll be a close game, a close, low-scoring game because both offenses are kind of inept. I could see Temple probably winning this one by a touchdown or so. Wouldn't shock me at all to see Georgia Tech win it, especially coming off a loss to the Citadel. I listened to the interview their coach Jeff Collins gave after that loss, and I like the way he took accountability for that loss, blamed it on himself. Not a lot of coaches do that. You should see a lot more of that in the world of college football. Some pretty close company I know of should do some stuff like that. But at any rate, Indiana goes on the road at Michigan State. Indiana catching 14 on the road. Michigan State's proven, especially last week, that they can score some points. Finally did so against Northwestern, a pretty good 31-10 breakout win. Indiana, of course, rebounded from getting thumped a couple of weeks ago at home by Ohio State with a 38-3 win over a really bad Connecticut team. Give me Michigan State here. Give me Sparty to cover against Indiana at home. I think that they are a much improved football team this year, And I just don't think Indiana's very good. They're not going to be able to score enough points to keep up with Michigan State here in this spot. USC on the road at Washington. USC is catching 10 on the road. You know, Ori have had a common opponent. USC went out to BYU a couple weeks ago and lost the ball game. Washington actually took care of business, just absolutely dismantled BYU last week. But you can't put a whole lot of stock into that. You know, you can't look at one team's performance against another one and then kind of gauge it off that. USC's been playing good football lately. The game against Utah at home last Friday night, I was really surprised with the way they played there and the way they were able to handle that Utah team that many thought would walk away with that Pac-12 South championship at the end of the year. Again, they're on like their fourth quarterback already. I can see this Washington, kind of holding them down defensively a little bit here. But I still think USC keeps this one within striking distance. I think Washington will end up getting the victory, but I'm looking for a good ball game here. And give me USC to cover the spread against Washington on the road, and but for Washington to end up winning it straight up. Clemson, the Tigers, my favorite team in the world, on the road at UNC, and they're laying 26.5 on the road at Chapel Hill. I'm going to tell you right now, that's too much points, or too many points. UNC 2-2 so far on the year, wins over my Gamecocks and over Miami, who have not proven out to be very good teams. I know. But really, the game on the road against Wake Forest, they almost came back and won. It's probably one of their most impressive performances of the season. I think Wake Forest is much better than South Carolina or Miami. Kind of concerning last week that they dropped that ball game against Appalachian State at home. But I did talk about that all summer, that I thought that probably would happen. Appalachian State returned almost everyone on their football team. And, that was just not a huge surprise to me that they would come out and win that game. Now here, I think UNC is going to be searching for a little bit of respect. Clemson, ranked #1 in the country, can't take anything away from them. But you know what? I mean, the way the teams are graded out, if you want to look, Clemson's not the best team in the country. Not the way they've graded out. Trevor Lawrence, what's he thrown? 7 TDs, 5 picks. You can tell me, you can say all you want to about it. They've been pulling them out of games early. You can tell me sophomore slump. The defense is carrying them, this, that, and other, blah, 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 blah. But this is not me being a homer here with this pick. I expect UNC to come out and play well here. And this is a venue in which Clemson has not played particularly well over the years. Now, they haven't played here since, I think it was 2010. Was the last time Clemson actually traveled to Chapel Hill, and they lost. The last time they actually met on the football field was at the end of the 2015 season. Clemson beat North Carolina in the ACC championship game in Charlotte. I can't remember what the score of that one was. Maybe it was 45-34, something like that. There was a crazy onside kick where they said UNC was offside toward the end of the game, and the UNC faithful, bitched to no end about that one. That, it was. I don't think that would have really made a difference in the outcome of the game. I think Clemson still would have won that one, but would have made the game closer and a little more interesting. But this year's UNC team, Sam Howell at quarterback, I think he's going to develop into a fine leader. They definitely made an upgrade in coaching when they went out and got Mac Brown back to take over for Larry Fedora, who I feel like had kind of lost the football team. Do I think Mac Brown's going to turn this team into an ACC championship team? No, I don't. I think he can lay the groundwork here. I think they will play inspired football. I think they'll come out, and I think they're going to cover the spread here against Clemson and keep this one closer than a lot of people think. Give me the Tar Heels in this one to cover the spread. Like I say, that's not a homer pick because UNC beat my Gamecocks or because I hate Clemson. it is what it is. Clemson is known for having a game or two every year in which they don't play up to their potential. They don't cover against somebody that you'd think they easily would cover against. Their defense has played a lot better this year than most people would think, but their offense has just kind of been lackluster. And I mean, you just can't continue to have those performances week after week and just say, oh, it'll be all right, we can score 70 next week if we wanted to, because you might not be able to. Mississippi State on the road at Auburn. Auburn is laying 10.5 at home against Mississippi State. Looked really impressive last week against Texas A&M on the road. You know, they had a 28-10 lead in the fourth quarter on A&M and ended up winning that game 28-20. Mississippi State lost a couple of weeks ago at home to Kansas State, and then had a couple of so-so victories earlier in the season against UL Lafayette and Southern Miss. And then last week, you know, they took Kentucky out behind the woodshed. So, look, a little bit of positive there from Mississippi State. Auburn is a tough place to go to. It's a tough place to play. It's a tough place to play at, especially when Auburn's playing well. They're playing well right now. They're undefeated. I expect them to stay that way, and I think they'll cover the spread here against Mississippi State, a team that has a really piss-poor passing offense. Auburn has a piss-poor passing offense too, but the running game is legitimate, and their defensive line and offensive line is both legitimate. So give me Auburn to cover the spread here at home against Mississippi State. Kansas State travels to Oklahoma State, 4.5-point favorites. Oklahoma State is at home. Pretty tough loss last week on the road at Texas. They were 6-point underdogs. They ended up losing by 6 there. I look for them to kind of rebound here a little bit. The running back Chuba Hubbard has been having a really good season quietly. A lot of people don't know about him. Kansas State, I believe, is undefeated right now. I don't think they're going to stay that way much longer, though. I think Oklahoma State takes this one in Stillwater on Saturday. Give me Oklahoma State and 4.5 points there. Ohio State on the road at Nebraska. Huge game here for Nebraska. Bad thing is that they don't have a team to match up. I mean, they just don't. They are 17.5-point underdogs in a game that's going to be televised at nighttime on ABC. It's not anything new, though, for there to be sold-out raucous crowds in Lincoln, Nebraska. This team is selling the stadium out last year when they were 4-8. Ohio State is just that damn good. I mean, Justin Fields has been playing out of his mind this year. That dude can ball like I don't know what. You can say what you want to about the level of competition they've faced, and yeah, this is going to be the best team that they've played. I wouldn't say by far, because Ohio State, they have win. I don't think that Nebraska is much better than Cincinnati or Indiana, to be honest with you. In fact, you could probably put all three of them in a triple threat match together, and I'm not sure who'd come out of it on top. With Nebraska, I mean, the most impressive victory this year is that 44-8 thing over Northern Illinois. You got the loss to Colorado there. Just not the last week. Had to come back on the road against an Illinois team that's not very good. Give me Ohio State here. I think they're going to win and win big in Lincoln. You got to kind of keep a watch on it. Because past 2 years, Ohio State has dropped games on the road to inferior opponents from the Big Ten Western Division. In 2017, they did it to Iowa. Last year, they did it to Purdue. But this is a new coaching staff, a little bit of a new mindset there. A lot of the old Urban Meyer groundwork is still in place. But with Ryan Day at the helm there, this team is just rolling right now, and I think they just continue to roll. Give me the Buckeyes here to cover against Nebraska in Lincoln. Kentucky on the road at South Carolina. South Carolina is a 3-point favorite at home against Kentucky. I already told you in my video on Sunday about this one. Well, I'm taking here, give me the Kentucky to cover the spread here. I'm not laying points with South Carolina again until they prove to me that that they're worthy of points, that they're worthy of it, that they can actually win a ball game, that they can actually move the ball offensively and make, you know, sound coaching decisions. I'm not going to do it. Just not going to lay points with them. Kentucky's playing with a backup quarterback right now, and Sawyer Brown. Their starter, Terry Wilson, went down earlier in the season. Sawyer Brown's played pretty well so far. Their running backs, A.J. Rose and Cavassier Smoke, they're decent running backs, did a decent job. Lynn Bowden, the wide receiver, is a dynamic player. You know, he can, you know, take the ball out of the Wildcat formation. You know, he's a good on special teams, and you know, I think they're just better.
What up, guys?
I think they're going to
Sunday morning, broken and defeated.
They're going to win that game. I want to show you something real quick here. While I had it on my mind and I was thinking about it, and I don't like to do this always in the beginning of or in the middle of my picks against the spread, but this is one of the comments that I got. This is the kind of crap that Carolina Jackpot has to put up with. This is from my video I did after the loss to Missouri. And this one was penned by Carolina Jackpot. If you want to go back and see it and maybe respond to him, give him your support, or you know, give Carolina Jackpot your support. I thought this was funny. Somebody named Chris Griffin, I guess it's Peter's son, I don't know. He gave me a comment on my video. I guess he's a Gamecock fan. He's a Gamecock supporter. He says, "Bo, shut the blank up. Free Oshman, first start on the road. He threw a pick 6. We're running the ball well up until last sat." Okay. We're throwing the ball well as well. Chill out. We're much better at home. And you believe us? We're going to be up to play Kentucky? Support the program. Quit getting on here talking shit to everyone to please everyone else. Fuck's sake, man. Okay, first of all, I'm going to let you know something. Carolina Jackpot has earned the right to talk shit about my football team if I want to, okay? Number one, because this is my channel. Okay? If you don't like it, hit the unsubscribe button and take your ass out. I really don't care. Number two, I've been supporting this team for 44 years. Guess what? I'm 44 years old. I'm 44. I'm a man. No, I'm not going to go into that rant. I'm 44 years old. I've been supporting this team ever since the daggum knew how to breathe, okay? I've been through ups. I've been through downs. I've been through a lot of downs. I've been through some ups, okay? And I like the way those ups make me feel. I like it when my team is winning. I don't like it when we are losing, and especially when we are losing, when we have pulled in top 25 recruiting classes for the past 4 to 5 years in a row, okay? That's the part that bothers me. We have a talented team. We have buffoons running the team who don't know how to coach these kids up and develop them. That's what I have a problem with. And this kind of garbage right here, if you're going to talk to me, first of all, at least try to be halfway grammatically correct, okay? I don't fancy myself a Rhodes Scholar, but I can't read that garbage, okay? It makes me dumber just by reading it. Okay? If you're going to come at me, at least come at me with something that makes sense. Okay? I'm not besmirching. I am not throwing off on any of our kids. And if you watch the entire video, you would know that. I was pissed because they continued to leave him out there to play when obviously his elbow was messed up, his arm was hurt, and he was not able to perform at his best. And we have a capable backup quarterback. third-string quarterback, but now he's the second-string quarterback. And they had no game plan developed for him. That pissed me off, because you should have a game plan developed for the second-string quarterback in case the first stringer goes down. I mean, my God, that's just football coaching 101. So it's that kind of thing that pisses me off. I've never not supported the team, and I will never not support the team. But I don't have to like the head coach. I don't have to like his idiot assistants. And I don't have to like the stupid decisions they make on the football field when we're out here losing games to stinking Missouri. When we're losing games to stinking North Carolina that we don't need to be losing and shouldn't be losing. And I'm not going to lay points with us against stinking Kentucky because of it. Okay, so put that in your pipe and smoke it, Peter Griffin. All right. After that little rant, we got 3 games here left on the slate. Let's see if we can get through these real quick. North Carolina State goes on the road to Florida State. Florida State been playing a lot better football the past couple of weeks. You know, had a close call, close loss against Virginia. A couple close loss at Virginia a few weeks ago, which they led for most of that game, allowed Virginia to come back and win the football game. Last week, led Louisville 21-0 at one point, and I tried to let Louisville come back in that one in the second half as well, but they held on and got a 35-24 victory. Good victory. Cam Akers starting to look a lot better. Quarterback Blackman starting to look better. I like the way things are progressing there. Kendall Briles, I think he's got this offense going to some degree. Are they going to ACC championship level degree? No. But they could get back to respectability. NC State is not a good football team. They lost a couple weeks ago on the road by 2 scores plus to a West Virginia team that just barely went on the road and beat Kansas last week. Last week, they have a struggle streak, like a 10 to 12 point win at home against Ball State. They're not very good. FSU is laying 6 at home. I'm taking FSU all day long. And this one, if I had to take one, this is my lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrel pick of the week. Take Florida State all day long over NC State in that particular situation. Washington State on the road at Utah. Utah laying 5 at home against the Cougars. You got Washington State last week, 67-64. Loss late last Saturday night against UCLA at home. It's just shocking. I mean, they were up by like 30 points in that game at one point, I believe. Utah, disappointing game on Friday night last week. Lost at USC with the third-string quarterback playing for the Trojans. Zach Moss, Tyler Huntley combo at Utah. I believe Moss is hurt and won't play in this game. And I think Huntley is kind of on the shelf as well. I think he's kind of iffy, or it may be a reverse of that. Maybe Moss is the one. I'm not sure. One of those guys is out. One of them is not going to play. One of them may play under limited duty. I don't think it's going to matter here in this situation. We know that Utah team, the defense is still solid, and we know that Washington State's defense definitely is not solid. They're on the road. This is at Utah. Give me the Utes to cover the spread here and get a bounce-back victory over Washington State, send them to their 2nd straight loss. And finally, we have UCLA on the road at Arizona. UCLA's catching 7.5 on the road at Arizona. I don't think Arizona is a very good football team, but they are coming off of a week's rest, and you got to think that UCLA has got to be exhausted after a 67-64 kind of marathon game with Washington State. I mean, it was a win. It was a good win for them. Impressed me. Scored more points in that game pretty much than they have all year long, and showed much more offense and moxie there than they have all year long. But this is a 2nd week in a row on the road after a game like that. I mean, you're just bound for some kind of a letdown here. Arizona, from it capable. in my opinion, of covering that 7.5-point spread against UCLA, and I think they do it. I think they win in the 10 to 14-point range against UCLA. I mean, this team's still not out of the woods yet. I mean, the week before the nice win against Washington State, Oklahoma just absolutely throttled this team, which Oklahoma's been throttling lots of teams. But before that, UCLA really not able to muster anything in the way of offense. So there we go, guys. That's my picks and predictions against the spread for week number 5. Hopefully there's some good ones in there. Hopefully there's something that you can gain from that as well. I apologize for my little rant on the YouTube comment and on the South Carolina game. It just people really piss me off when they question my fandom, and as Uncle Lou says, they try to tell me how to fan. You know, don't try to tell me how to fan. I can fan the way I want to fan, the way that I've been fanning for however many years that I've been a fan. You can fan the way that you want to, you know, but don't tell me how I should fan, and don't tell me how I should feel about certain games and certain and I've got other people on here that give me comments like, we shouldn't be mad because South Carolina's never won anything. You know what? You're right. We have not won the SEC. We have never won a national championship, nor have we competed for one. It doesn't matter. It still does not mean that I should not be pissed off that we go on the road and lay a turd against a Missouri team that's not very good. That's just my point. There's no reason why that I don't have the right to be pissed off about a loss just because we've never won a national championship. That makes absolutely zero damn sense whatsoever. Makes 0 sense. And if you're a real college football fan, I think you would agree with me. All right, guys, I'm out. Carolina Jackpot. I'll see y'all next time. We'll recap these picks on Sunday once again. I'm sure we'll have plenty of videos before now and then. So until then, peace. I'm out. Go Gamecocks. Fire boom.